Despicable Me 2 is a 2013 American 3D computer-animated comedy film and the sequel to the 2010 animated film Despicable Me. Produced by Illumination Entertainment and distributed by Universal Pictures, the film is directed by Pierre Coffin and Chris Renaud, and written by Cinco Paul and Ken Daurio. This marks the first time that Illumination Entertainment made a sequel film. Steve Carell, Russell Brand, and Miranda Cosgrove reprised their roles as Gru, Dr. Nefario and Margo, respectively. Kristen Wiig, who played Miss Hattie in the first film, voices agent Lucy Wilde, while Ken Jeong, who played the talk show host, voices Floyd Eagle-san. New cast members include Benjamin Bratt as Eduardo and Steve Coogan as Silas Ramsbottom, head of the Anti-Villain League. A film premiered on June 5, 2013 in Australia, and was theatrically released in the United States on July 3, 2013. The film received mostly positive reviews from critics, and was nominated for Academy Award for Best Animated Feature and for Academy Award for Best Original Song, losing both to Disney's Frozen. Grossing over $970 million worldwide against its budget of $76 million, the film became the second highest grossing animated film of 2013. The third highest grossing film of 2013, and broke a record as the most profitable film in the 100-year history of Universal Studios. A prequel spin-off film, Minions, focusing on the little yellow henchmen before they met Gru, is set to be released on July 10, 2015. A third film, Despicable Me 3, is scheduled to be released on June 30, 2017. Plot: a secret laboratory in the Arctic Circle containing a powerful mutagen known as PX-41 is stolen by a mysterious vehicle using a huge magnet. The Anti-Villain League tries to recruit former supervillain Gru to find out which evil person stole the lab, since he knows how villains work. But Gru refuses to help, saying he is a legitimate jelly-making businessman now and the father of Margo, Edith, and Agnes. Dr. Nefario, Gru's friend and assistant, has decided to leave him for new employment, because he missed being evil. Gru reluctantly partners with undercover AVL agent Lucy Wilde. Gru suspects Mexican restaurant owner Eduardo par copyright res of being El Macho, a legendary supervillain who supposedly died after skysurfing a shark into the center of an active volcano. Gru and Lucy break into Eduardo's restaurant at night, but find nothing to prove that Eduardo is the culprit. Meanwhile, Agnes expresses her wish to have a mother someday and believes that Gru will fall in love with Lucy. Despite this, Gru tells her that his relationship with Lucy is strictly professional. Gru and Lucy investigate wig merchant Floyd Eagle-san, but Gru is still suspicious of Eduardo, after seeing Eduardo's two-timing son, Antonio, going out with Margo, and Eduardo inviting everyone to come to his Cinco de Mayo party. After the investigation, Gru is set up on a horrible dinner date with a rude woman named Shannon, who notices Gru's wig and threatens to humiliate him. Luckily, Lucy bumps into them and rescues him from the date by shooting Shannon with a tranquilizer dart. They take Shannon home, and after they say goodnight, Gru realizes that Agnes was right, he has fallen in love with Lucy. The next day, the AVL arrests Floyd Eagle-san because an almost empty mutagen jar was found in his shop. The investigation is closed, and Lucy is reassigned to Australia. Before leaving, Lucy gives Gru her lipstick taser to remind him of her. This leaves Gru heartbroken because he loves her, but he cannot find the courage to ask her out on a date. Instead he brings the girls to the Cinco de Mayo party and finds proof that the Mexican restaurateur is in fact El Macho. Gru discovers that he and his partner have captured and mutated a large number of Gru's minions using the PX-41, turning them into insane, savage purple-furred monsters. El Macho plans to send rockets full of mutated minions to major cities and achieve world domination. El Macho proposes that he and Gru team up. Gru avoids answering and leaves with his children. Antonio has left Margo for another girl. Gru uses his freeze ray to freeze Antonio in a block of ice. On her flight to Australia, Lucy realizes she has fallen in love with Gru, so she jumps out of the plane and hang glides down to the party. She is captured by El Macho, who finds out she is an AVL agent after Polito, his pet chicken, retrieves her AVLID badge from her purse. Fortunately, Dr. Nefario tells Gru what is happening. In order to rescue Lucy, Gru visits El Macho along with 2 minions covered in purple paint, pretending he was captured by 2 of the mutant creatures. Fighting alongside his daughters and Dr. Nefario, Gru and his team spray all of the mutated minions with jelly containing a powerful antidote that Dr. Nefario made, whereupon they revert to their friendly yellow state. El Macho then takes the mutagen himself, but Gru and Dr. Nefario overcome him using a fart gun and Lucy's lipstick taser. Lucy is, however, already strapped to a TNT-loaded shark rocket. Gru starts to untie her, but Pelito presses the rocket launch remote button. The rocket flies towards the same lava-spewing volcano where El Macho had previously faked his death. Lucy accepts Gru's invitation for a date, and the pair dive into the safety of the ocean seconds before the rocket enters the volcano. 147 dates later, Gru and Lucy are married and Margo, Edith, and Agnes finally have a mother. The minions close with a rendition of I Swear, and YMCA as the whole family celebrates. Cast: Steve Carell as felonious Gru, former villain turned father. Kristen Wiig as Lucy Wilde, an anti-villain League agent and Gru's love interest new partner. Wiig also voiced Miss Hattie in the first film. Benjamin Bratt as Eduardo El Macho par copyright Res, the owner of Salsa and Salsa, a Mexican restaurant in the Paradise Mall. Al Pacino was originally cast in the role, but left the film due to creative differences. Miranda Cosgrove as Margo, the oldest of the 3 girls and the most overprotective of the trio. Elsie Fisher as Agnes, the youngest child of the 3 girls, who is obsessed with unicorns. Dana Gaya as Edith, the middle and tomboy of the 3 girls. Russell Brand as Dr. Nefario, Gru's elderly, hearing-impaired gadget man. Ken Jeong as Floyd Eagle-san, an owner of a wig store. Jeong also voiced talk show host in the first film. Steve Coogan as Silas Ramsbottom, the head of the Anti-Villain League. Moisa copyright S. Arias as Antonio par copyright Res, Margo's love interest and Eduardo's son. Nazem Pedrad as Gillian, Gru's irritating matchmaking neighbor. Kristen Skoll as Shannon, Gillian's superficial friend. Pierre Coffin as Kevin the Minion, Bob the Minion, Stuart the Minion, additional minions, and evil minions. According to Coffin, he lent his voice to 899 minions. Chris Renaud as additional minions, evil minions, and Italian waiter. Vanessa Bayer as flight attendant. Production: Chris Meledandri, CEO of Illumination Entertainment, said in July 2010 that a sequel was in the works. Release was tentatively scheduled for July 3, 2013. Miranda Cosgrove stated on her official Facebook and Twitter page on October 14, 2011 that she had recorded her first lines, while Meledandri confirmed in February 2012 that they had started animating the film. Casting: in February 2012, it was reported that Al Pacino had joined the cast to voice the villain, Eduardo. In April 2012, it was confirmed that Steve Carell, Russell Brand, Miranda Cosgrove, Dana Gaya and Elsie Fisher were returning to reprise their roles. Kristen Wiig, on the other hand, who voiced Miss Hattie in the original film, voices Lucy Wilde, an agent of the Anti-Villain League who recruits Gru to track and take down a tough, Mexican villain named El Macho. Steve Coogan joined the cast as Silas Ramsbottom, the head of the Anti-Villain League. On May 3, 2013, just a month before the film's premiere, it was announced that Al Pacino had left the film over creative differences about how his character should come to life. At the time of his departure, Pacino's character had been already fully voiced and animated. Chris Renaud, co-director of the film, commented on Pacino's departure, "So we don't want an unhappy actor, and we want something that is well realized on all sides. If you don't see eye to eye, sometimes it's easier to and move on from there." Benjamin Bratt, who had already been considered before Pacino, stepped in to voice Eduardo. Chris Meledandri, producer of the film, admitted that he was not aware of any of the major animated films of the last 15 years that has brought an actor in at such a late stage. Due to the finished animation, Bratt had to match his timing exactly to the character's mouth movement. Initially, during his 5-day recording, he tried to imitate Pacino's voice, but found it impossible, saying no one can out Al Pacino Al Pacino. He ended up only using Pacino as an inspiration, and resolved to go with his own interpretation of the character. His work was commended by Variety, saying, "You'd never guess he wasn't the filmmaker's first choice." Release: Despicable Me 2 premiered on June 5, 2013 at Event Cinemas in Bondi Junction, New South Wales, Australia. Steve Carell and Miranda Cosgrove were present at the red carpet premiere. The American premiere was held at Universal City Walk in Los Angeles on June 22, 2013. Steve Carell, Miranda Cosgrove, Kristen Wiig, Benjamin Bratt, Ken Jeong, Elsa Fisher, Dana Gaya, Nazim Pedrad and composer Pharrell were present at the yellow carpet premiere. The film was theatrically released in the United States on July 3, 2013. It was digitally remastered into IMAX 3D format and released in select international IMAX theaters. This film was also shown in the 4DX format, featuring tilting seats, water sprays, strobe lighting, aroma, wind, pops, and ticklers, in selected countries. Cine Copyright Polis opened its first 4DX room at the Centro Comercial Limina Premier Mall in Cali, Colombia, with the release of the film. Like with the first film, which didn't have a theatrical release in China, the film's distributor Universal Pictures had troubles releasing the sequel. When it was reported in July 2013 that the film had been denied a theatrical release in China, then the second-largest film markets in the world, some analysts attributed this to the protection of locally produced animation. There were also rumors that it was halted in China because the film's minions too much resembled former Chinese President Jiang Zemin. China's Film Bureau was furious about the negative comments, stating that the film was not submitted for censorship approval. In fact, there was reportedly a commercial conflict between Universal and Echo Films, the film's local distributor, over which titles are to be imported. Echo had decided that the film would not do well in China and decided against using one of the precious quota slots for the film. In December 2013, a few weeks after the Universal Pictures announcement that it would open a Beijing office, it was reported that due to renewed approaches Despicable Me 2 would be theatrically released in China on January 10, 2014. Marketing: a blimp dressed to appear as a minion, named Despicable, toured the United States from March 2013 in a 6-month tour to promote the film's release. As one of the largest airships in the world, measuring 165 feet in length, 55 feet in height, and weighing 8,000 pounds, it crossed the country 3 times during its 20,000 miles long tour, visiting hundreds of events, including the film's premiere in Hollywood. The blimp, an American Blimp Corporation A150 model, could be tracked in real time via GPS at the Despicable Me Command Center website, which allowed fans to post photos of sightings, and compete for various prizes, including for a ride in the blimp. A free mobile action video game inspired by the Despicable Me franchise, titled Despicable Me: Minion Rush, was released on June 13, 2013. The game, developed by Gameloft, was adapted for iPhone, iPad and Android devices. Played as one of the minions, it allows customization of the character, who must perform various tasks, including defeating Vector and a new villain created for the game, to earn the title of Minion of the Year. The game was downloaded more than 100 million times in the first 3 months after its release, and won a BAFTA's British Academy Children's Award in the category BAFTA's Kids Vote. For the film's release, Roblox, a massively multiplayer online game, released 2 virtual items, a minion and goggles. 6 books were released for the film: the junior novel, The Anti-Villain League Handbook, Undercover Super Spies, Attack of the Evil Minions, Make a Minion, and Meet the Minions. Universal Pictures and Illumination Entertainment partnered with more than 100 licensing and promotional partners in a deal valued at an unprecedented $250 million. One of the partners was McDonald's, which included in its Happy Meals various Minion toys, some of them unique to a specific country. To take advantage of banana-loving Minions, Chiquita Brands International ran various sweepstakes, and a Minion, voiced by Pierre Coffin, performed the song Chiquita Banana in the film. Cinco Toys released various toys and figures, and Hasbro made special Monopoly and Operation games. Custom 3D glasses, modeled after the Minions goggles, were released exclusively at Best Buy on Look 3D, the producer of the glasses, for use in real 3D theaters and with passive 3D home theater systems. Home media: Despicable Me 2 was released in digital HD on November 26, 2013, and on DVD and Blu-ray on December 10, 2013. The DVD and Blu-ray combo pack features 3 mini-movies titled Puppy, Panic in the Mailroom, and Training Wheels. A Walmart-exclusive Blu-ray DVD combo pack included 2 limited edition Minion toys. In its first week of home entertainment release, 4.5 million physical and digital units had been sold, earning $80 million and breaking several records. The film had the highest first-week sales for a digital title ever and became the best-selling animated Blu-ray title in its first week, surpassing its predecessor, which previously held the record. Despicable Me 2 was the best-selling Blu-ray of 2013 with 4,568,759 sold for a total of $91,907,025 in sales. It was also the second best-selling DVD for the year 2013 with 4,566,911 sold for sales totaling $77,250,269. As of March 2014, Despicable Me 2 was $95,336,556 in DVD sales along with $104,315,164 in Blu-ray totaling $199,651,720. Reception. Critical response: Despicable Me 2 has received generally positive reviews from critics. The review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reported a 74% approval rating with an average rating of 6.7/10 based on 170 reviews. The website's consensus reads, "Despicable Me 2 offers plenty of eye-popping visual inventiveness and a number of big laughs." Another review aggregator, Metacritic, which assigns a normalized rating out of 100 top reviews from mainstream critics, calculated a score of 62 based on 39 reviews. The film earned an A from audiences polled by Cinema Score. Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, saying Steve Carell's Slavic inflections as Gru do the trick, as before. Wiig's clever hesitations and comic timing help save the day. Michael Rechtschaffen of The Hollywood Reporter gave the film a negative review, saying the new edition doesn't quite catch that inspired spark. Stephen Whitty of the Star Ledger gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying not only a fun cartoon but, that rare thing, a sequel which actually improves on the original. Elizabeth Weitzman of the New York Daily News gave the film 2 out of 5 stars, saying armed with masses of minions and an excess of adorability, Despicable Me 2 is guaranteed to charm anyone who's out of school and already bored. Soren Anderson of the Seattle Times gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, saying it's fun. It's cheerful. It's lollipop colorful. Best of all, it features lots of minion mischief, which guarantees plenty of laughs. But what it doesn't have is an edge. Peter Howell of the Toronto Star gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, saying it feels at times as if Despicable Me 2 actually is the Minions movie. Coffin and Renaud and returning screenwriters Cinco Paul and Ken Daurio haven't managed to come up with a dastardly plot to rival the shrinking and stealing of the moon from the previous film. Stephen Holden of the New York Times gave the film 2.5 stars out of 5, saying it is consistently diverting and so cute you'll want to pet it. Yet it is also weightless and lacks a center. Rafa Guzman of Newsday gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, saying better, or at least sweeter, than the first, with Wiig adding some much-needed romantic charm to the toddler-level humor. Turdad Rakshani of the Philadelphia Inquirer gave the film 2.5 stars out of 5, saying if you're looking for quality pre-packaged, pre-digested Hollywood family fun this summer, who could do a lot worse than Despicable Me 2? Keith Ehrlich of Time Out gave the film 3 out of 5 stars, saying a fleeter film than its predecessor, Despicable Me 2 delights more often than it disappoints. Alonzo Duralde of The Wrap gave the film a negative review, saying the Minions are still wacky scene stealers, and once again, we don't get nearly enough of them, but Gru and his daughters have been blanded down to bad sitcom level. Claudia Puig of USA Today gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, saying with its predecessor having made a whopping $540 million globally, it's no wonder that Universal saw fit to order a sequel. But it's not enough just to trot out legions of minions and cobble together a plot. Audiences deserve more imagination and inventiveness than this one recycling. Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly gave the film a C, saying by the end, every child in the audience will want his or her own monster minion toy. Adults will just regret the way that Despicable Me 2 betrays the original film's devotion to bad guy gaiety. Sarah Stewart of the New York Post gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying sure, it's not as novel as The First Time We Were Here, but directors Pierre Coffin and Chris Renaud stay true to the clever, slapstick vibe. James Berardinelli of Real Views gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying Despicable Me 2 feels like an opportunity to get together with some old friends, hang out, and discover what they've been up to. Tom Russo of the Boston Globe gave the film a positive review, saying the scope of the toon espionage adventure goings-on is surprisingly limited. But the filmmakers so clearly love working on these characters, their creative joy is infectious. Stephanie Merry of the Washington Post gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying the animation is beguiling, particularly when Lucy drives her car into the ocean, transforming it into a submarine that scoots around sharks and fish. Peter DeBruge of Variety gave the film a positive review, saying while not quite as charming or unique as the original, Despicable Me 2 comes awfully close, extending co-directors Chris Renaud and Pierre Coffin's delightfully silly sensibility to a bit larger universe. Peter Haralaub of the San Francisco Chronicle gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying it's a credit that the writing can be so funny in the moment, that it takes time to realize there's no cohesive story, zero dramatic tension and nary a practical lesson for either the characters in the film or the people watching in the theater. James Rickey of MSN Movies gave the film 4 out of 5 stars, saying heartfelt and hilarious, smart and silly, action-packed but never violent, Despicable Me 2 is that rare sequel that outshines its beginnings. Colin Cover of the Star Tribune gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying for an adult, the predictability could turn you blasé copyright. For kids, revisiting these jokes is a howl. Pinky Promise. Mary F. Poles of Time gave the film a positive review, saying as a sequel it stands level with the first film, and may have the edge on it. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying co-directors Chris Renaud and Pierre Coffin, who do minion voices expertly, never let up on the laughs. A fart joke in 3D may not be 3 times as wacky, but the high spirits of Despicable Me 2 are irresistible fun. A. Dowd of the AV Club gave the film a C, saying hurt a unregistered trademark S missing a euro, and this was the crucial component of Part 1. A euro is a little sour to undercut the sweet. Like its protagonist, a bad guy gone boringly good, Despicable Me 2 has no edge. Eat a unregistered trademark S fatally nice and insufficiently naughty. Laramie Legel of Film.com gave the film a 6.3 out of 10, saying Despicable Me 2 is fun, especially near the culmination. Structural issues aside, Eat a unregistered trademark S impossible not to like these characters, all of them, rendered with love, always entertaining even when the story around them doesn't a unregistered trademark T make much sense. Box office, Despicable Me 2 grossed $368,061,265 in North America, and $602,700,620 in other countries, for a worldwide total of $970,761,885. Calculating in all expenses, Deadline.com estimated that the film made a profit of $394.5 million. It is the 21st highest-grossing film, the 4th highest-grossing animated film, the 3rd highest-grossing 2013 film, the 2nd highest-grossing 2013 animated film, the highest-grossing Illumination Entertainment film, and the second-highest-grossing Universal Studios film. With a budget of $76 million, a film became the most profitable film in the 100-year history of Universal Studios. North America, Despicable Me 2 is the 26th highest-grossing film, the 4th highest-grossing 2013 film, the 6th highest-grossing animated film, the 7th highest-grossing 3D film, and the highest-grossing Illumination Entertainment film. It is the 6th animated film to pass the $300 million mark. The film opened on Wednesday, July 3, 2013 at first place with $35.0 million. Its opening day gross stands as third highest for an animated feature, and the seventh highest among films opening on a Wednesday. The film then dropped 30% to $24.5 million on Thursday, marking the second largest non-opening Thursday gross. Over the 5-day Independence Day weekend, the film earned $143.1 million, the highest 5-day start for an animated film. During the traditional 3-day opening weekend, the film earned $83.5 million. The film's 3-day opening weekend gross was the largest among Illumination Entertainment films, the third largest for an Independence Day holiday, the fourth largest among animated films, the seventh largest among films released in July, and the 10th largest among films not released on a Friday. The film topped the box office for 2 consecutive weekends. Outside North America, Despicable Me 2 is the 27th highest-grossing film, the third highest-grossing animated film, the second highest-grossing Universal film, and the third highest-grossing 2013 film. It is also only the fourth animated to have crossed the $600 million mark. On its first weekend, Despicable Me 2 opened only in Australia with $6.66 million, ahead of Monsters University which opened on the same weekend. The film set an opening day record in Latvia. In total, it opened at number 1 in 67 territories, and set opening weekend records among animated films in Latin America, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Lebanon, as well as opening weekend records among all films in South Africa and Venezuela. The film topped the box office on 2 consecutive weekends during July 2013. The film's largest openings occurred in the United Kingdom, Ireland and Malta, China and Mexico. In total earnings, its largest markets were the United Kingdom, Ireland and Malta, China and Mexico. Accolades. Soundtrack, Despicable Me 2, original motion picture soundtrack is the soundtrack album for the film, released on June 18, 2013 through Backlot Music. The original music was composed by Heather Pereira and Pharrell Williams. The album was promoted by the highly successful single Happy performed by Williams. Track listing, all music composed by Heather Pereira, except where noted. Chart positions, spin-off and sequel. A spin-off feature film titled Minions, featuring the Minions as the main characters, is scheduled to be released on July 10, 2015. Written by Brian Lynch, it will be directed by Pierre Coffin and Kyle Boulder, and produced by Chris Meledandri and Janet Healy. The film, set in the 1960s, will focus on the Minions before they met Gru, where they compete for the right to become henchmen of an ambitious villain, Scarlet Overkill, voiced by Sandra Bullock. On January 15, 2014, it was announced that a sequel, titled Despicable Me 3 will be released on June 30, 2017. References. External links, official website, Despicable Me 2 at the Internet Movie Database, Despicable Me 2 at the Big Cartoon Database, Despicable Me 2 at Metacritic, Despicable Me 2 at Box Office Mojo, Despicable Me 2 at Rotten Tomatoes.